Hey. Hey. Onegaishimasu. Pick up. Hold up and down. Side to side. Hey, use the shoulders. Circles one way. Circles the other way. The arms. Hey, going back. So, and one side. The other side. Crossing one side. Cross the other side. Open and close. Hey, lower your hips, engage your core muscles. Thighs lucky. And thighs. Ryoho. Genji. Oh. Hey, Ibuhiki. Oh. Ye. Go. Ye. Go. Hey. Up. Forward. Down. Hey, your knees from the back. Knee circles. Side. And circles the other side. Down. Up. Down. Down. Bring your toes. Down. Down. Up. Down. Up. Down. Hey, your hips. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, And now your knees. Remember that when we do our knee raises, hopefully we're trying to practice not only our knee raise, but also the rotation of our upper body. So the rotation of our upper body, because this is something has to do with physical exercise and nature of motion. Most of the time, the rotational nature of physical activities of most sports, many sports, in Aikido, not one to give the label of a sport, but Aikido is a physical activity, requires not only linear sets of motions, but also lateral sets of motions. So in this case, you're going to raise your knee, it's correct. You're also going to be rotating your body from one side, the other side, and rotating. So your upper body kind of is doing this action, where you're raising your knee and engaging your core muscles, hopefully in the upper leg. Okay, so remember, it's raising of your knee, rotation of the upper body. Okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You on the other side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You are. Same thing, but raising your legs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Into the side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And hinges. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Finish. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Open your legs, lower your hips. And if possible, opening to one side. Hips. The other side. Turn your toes, raising your head, and hips up. And standing up. And circles. So to the side. Open your legs, side. And lowering one side. Lower on the other side. Toes up, side. Up, the side. Hand in front. The other side. Hey, side to side. You go into one side, put your knee down, both hands down, hands opening up, and down, opening up, down, open up, down, one more, open up, down. Here what we do. Down, knee, hands down together, open, down, open, down, open, down, one more, open, and down. Opening your legs, elbows down. Going forward. Hey, back stretch. Forward again. Back stretch. Forward again. Hips up. And walk backwards. Hands up. Open one side. Open the other side. Hands down. Open forward. Hips down. Hips up. Walk backwards. Hands up. One side. The other side. Hands down. Forward. Hips down. And hips back. Hey, carao. Side. Back. Hey, inside of the legs. Outside of the legs. Go all the way on your legs, in the upper leg, in the lower leg, on the upper leg, on the lower leg, upper leg, buttocks, and on top of the legs. And you center again. So, hey, kids. Cool. Yeah. Cool. Thank you. Cool. Peace. Hey, sitting down. Kind of up on your feet. Kind of on your feet is always supposed to be always a relevant, an important exercise, but sometimes we treat it like mulled wine. So it's only good in winter. So when your feet are really cold. But technically, the Canada, the massage on your upper body and the massage of your body, upper body, and the massage of your feet is equally important. So lowering, rubbing your leg down, okay, and rubbing your toes. So, especially if it's cold, with feeling to warm up those toes, okay, and rotating those toes all together, and rotating your toes and your ankles in one direction, rotating toes and ankles in the other direction. Yeah, now we have a little bit of time, so we'll do each toe by itself. Let's see how the health of each toe individually. So each toe, good. Now rubbing the bottom of the foot. Rub, tap. And shake. Back to foot, back to foot. Grab the toes and raising up. 1, 2, 3, and put it down. Very good, the other side. Same thing, start by rubbing your leg. Your legs, and then your blood downwards, towards the leg, foot. Okay. And go for your toes. All of them. Point them all. It's possibly the best part because you're rubbing all the toes. And rotating all the toes and the ankle, particularly. Sometimes we do kind of some form of trying to rotate our ankle when we're standing up, but it's never a preparation of the toes and rotation on the ankle when we are doing it standing up, but it's never as good or sufficient if we do actually these proper exercises like that. So rotation on one side, rotation on the other side. Okay, toes go back, up, back, all together, up, back, all together, down, and then each toe individually. Just checking how each toe is. Okay, rubbing your feet. And tapping. This. And stretch. So, and put it down. Very good. And finish by bringing everything together. Your 2 hands and just keep yourself back. What's the nice stretch? So yeah, doing the foot part of the karate is very important. We usually do the upper body, but the upper body and the legs. Sometimes we don't make it all the way to the feet. It's a good idea all the time to do all the way to the feet. But again, especially in winter, maybe it was more wine, which is somehow more acceptable in winter than in the rest of the year. So, all right. So now to say that. So this week we've been focusing a lot on the dojo, continuing with our study of Koshiwaza, okay, in terms of how to use our hip structure into our techniques. But remembering that when we say Koshiwaza, it's like a system of parts that can be studied by themselves. Of course, the hip hinges, the hip joints, okay, that are part of that idea. It's also the spine, and especially this week we've been focusing on the pelvic area, right? And we are kind of talking about how the pelvic area tilts, obviously from one side to the other. Visualizing it like if it was a ball, with a bottom on top, that your pelvic area tilts, and the bottom on top is your spine, depending on how is the tilting of the pelvic area, has a direct impact on your spine. So, also remembering that when we talk about posture, I should say, many times we focus on as is very common, on the upper body, trying to fix our posture, when really the first point of call to fix your posture should be your pelvic tilting. There's no point of me trying to, being overly tucked in, for example, I did with my pelvic area, really shooting down, and then trying to fix my posture by just kind of pushing my shoulders back and kind of trying really hard to push my shoulders back, but I never really fix my pelvic area first and then push my shoulders back. right? So all your postural elements have to do more with pelvic misalignment than with upper back and shoulder misalignment. So that's the first thing that we need to be aware of, be familiar with, you know, and then be aware. So in order to practice that first basic form of awareness, possibly the simplest exercise to do that is you are on your hands and knees, and then you come all the way up into what is called the cat position, and then you tuck your pelvic area down into the cow, and then you basically transition between these two movements, okay? From cat position to cow position, from the pelvic pushing all the way up, the pelvic area pushing all the way down, pelvic area all the way up, pelvic area all the way down, pelvic area all the way up, pelvic area all the way down. So this basic rotation of your pelvic area, you know, and as you can see, when you are in what's called the cat position, basically your pelvic area is completely pointing up, your back is arched, what we would call slumping, you know, when you were sitting. If you push that pelvic area all the way down, you come into this position, which is the cow position, you are hyper-arching, you know, your lower back. So, you know, in this position, you are curving your back in one direction. In this position, you are curving your back in another direction. So that's the impact that it has, the pelvic motion into the position or line of your spine. So as an exercise here is a good exercise to kind of, you know, work on the lower back, you know, check the tail, kind of an idea of the pelvic area, check his motion and his spine. So as an exercise in that position is a good exercise, but as a way of being in our normal day-to-day, those two extremes are really bad. So one extreme would be the cat extreme, which is this way. It's where my pelvis is completely back, and I have what we will call a pull posture. So that position we don't understand it is bad, but also the cow position is really bad, which is when I hyper-emphasize the curvature of my lower spine to a point when it is unhealthy for my lower back. So again, you know, you can practice the cow and the cat sitting down. Okay, so if you practice exactly the same motion that you had on your hands and feet, but in seiza position, you should be able to feel your keep pushing back. You keep pushing back. Pelvic area going back. Pelvic area going back. Pelvic area going up. And then, again, find where in between those two extremes, you know, your pelvic area sits nicely and your spine sits on top of that area. When we sit in seiza, we discuss this also as an act of basic posture, but also an act of bowing and, you know, an act of performing our techniques. You know, when you're sitting in seiza or standing up, you know, there are 3 points to check in terms of their alignment to have a good posture and a good motion. Point number 1 would be the head. You know, if your head feels like it's being pulled up by a string, you know, a gentle string, so it's pulling your head up as opposed to kind of being compacted like that. Pulling your head up, you know, by a string, that's number 1. Number 2 is when you pay attention to your heart, and your heart leads an emotion. For example, when you bow downwards, so you're not leading the motion with your head, and you're not leading the motion with your shoulders, you're leading the motion with your heart downwards, and then falling up. So pay attention to your chest, the heart area. And number 3 now will be the fixing of your pelvic tilting, right? So if you fix your pelvic tilting, if your heart leads the motion, and if a string is pulling from the top of your head, now you can bow, and it will be a good bow. Now you can perform any motion, any movement of technique, any action, and it will be a more integrated action because head is being tilted up, your heart is leading the motion, and your pelvic area is properly aligned with it. And then you can move. And you can move into Aikido, you can move into Iriminage, you can bow into Shikunage, and so on. Whatever motion is performed with your Aikido technique, you know, pulling from the head, you know, expanding from the heart, tilting from the hips, and that gives you the structure to move. Okay, so Put your hands down, okay? This time with your awareness on your pelvic area, being pushing down, okay? Make a circle around, like if you were drawing a circle on the ground with the knot of your belt, okay? So you're making a big circle all around, circle all around, circle all around, circle, circle, circle all around, big circle on the floor. So make sure that your pelvic area is quite aware of the circle that is drawing on the floor and putting it back. All right. So when we stand up, you know, and I think Susan commented this last time, and something is an idea that we also played with a while ago, you know, a few days ago, which was if you imagine your navel, your belly button, being like a lamp, okay? If your pelvic area is sucking down, that lamp is pointing downwards. You fix your pelvic area up, that line is going forward now, as opposed to downwards. Depending how the placement of your pelvic area is, the alignment of the pelvic area is, you know, your belly button will be pointing downwards, your belly button will be pointing forward. Okay, so the idea is when you stand up, okay, sometimes people use the language in training of connecting center to center, and that's an important message to try to do, but it's sometimes difficult to translate into what does that physically means. You know, it has to do with an intentional element. It has to do with a way of presenting yourself. It definitely has to do with the basic horizontal alignment of your body, right? So if my body, once again, if my body is presented too much on an angle in relation to my partner, let's say I'm going to grab my partner here in Katate Dori, and my body is too much on an angle in relation to my partner, my center is facing that way, my hand is kind of facing this way. So that would be a misalignment. So first of all, will be like a horizontal alignment of my hand and my center, where my hand and my center are pointing in the same direction. Right? So if your center is pointing one way or hand another way, that's a common feeling of, well, you are not presenting your center. Fair enough, you know, it has to align your hip in order to be aligned to the part that you are trying to connect. So that's number one, and that's more or less easy to fix. It's just a fixing of the hips in a lateral motion, which Moreno Sensei emphasizes a lot. You know, how your hips are not open, but more square and then bringing forward here. So that's number one. But number two is also the tilting of your pelvic area. If you are already facing forward, let's say you're square, but your pelvic area is your bum stuck out. Now your pelvic area is pointing down. So even if I'm in this position, the person on the other side is not going to feel that I am connecting my center to the center. And that is not so much because I'm not aligning to them, but because my center now is pointing down. So I have to align, fix the tilting of my pelvic area. Now I'm more present horizontally, but also vertically towards where my partner is. Okay? So just take a moment in terms of your handling. When you adopt a natural handling, you just come here and you can have I imagine that you had a person in front of you and you were going to go and what's the normal reaction of your hip? First of all, horizontally, is your hip opening one side while you're trying to grab something on the front? Or are you squaring that? And second, what is the tilting of your pelvic area naturally? Are you tucking your butt back, you know, or are you trying to present your center by tilting your pelvic area forward? So just if you stand up there, just come into contact with an imaginary partner in front. You know, what's the natural place in which your hip falls into that contact? You know, here, and what's the natural way? You know, many of us have a very open hip, so that would be not uncommon. What I'm saying is something has to be correct. Something has to be connected into, come on here, square, center to center directly, tilting of the pelvic area into that point of contact. Okay, so once again, come here, grab center to center horizontally, but also tilting that center forward to connect upwards towards your partner, not downwards by tucking your hips back. Okay, here, connect horizontally and upwards. Here, connect horizontally and upwards. Okay, so that would be a common way of saying when a person says you have to connect with your center to mind, they may be talking about three possible things. Number one, we already said the horizontal alignment of your body. So make sure that your hips are pointing to them. Number two, the vertical tilting of your hip. Your hip may be too much tucked backwards. So you have to physically adapt the tilting of your hip, of your pelvic area to face them. Number three could be the direction of your intention. No? You may be too focused on the hand, or maybe too focused on the grip, and you are forgetting the body. You are too focused on what you are grabbing that you are forgetting your own structure, and by definition, their entire structure as well. So normally it's one of those three things: the direction of your hips, the tilting of your pelvic, and the over-focusing of, you know, whatever we are grabbing or holding in exchange of focusing on the whole person we're grabbing. So if we can fix one of those things, three of those things, then the other person will feel more that we are connecting ourselves to them, connecting our center to their center. Okay? So as a warm-up before we do another exercise that is maybe for tilting, from your seated position, Joko Ukemi, lower your hips, up, lower your hips, lowering, lower, 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 hips, go. You need this time again. There are two basic ways of warming up for this exercise. Number one is when you curve your body, as your hip, your pelvic area again, tilts backwards, you make it as good as possible. That's a good way to start, usually, right? Like curve your body, tilting your pelvic area backwards, and your body. So let's start just first with that. I don't know what you were doing, but just to explain again the tilting of the pelvic area and everything. So lower yourself down, curve your body, and lower your hips, curve your body, lower your hips, curve your body, lower your hips, curve your body. So that's one way of doing it. We do high exercise lowering of your hips. Your hips are going back, your body is going curved, and then you take that position. Number two is kind of the opposite direction. Your hip gets pushed up, your pelvic area points forward, your hip is extended backwards. Sometimes the way we explain that is your spine is being extended. Your spine is being extended. With the impact is your pelvic area being exposed upwards, your spine is being extended, which is usually what happens with something, for example, iriminage. Iriminage, you know, the person doesn't let you collapse into yourself. In iriminage, the person raises from the head up, extends your body, and then from same thing with shikonage. With shikonage, the person extends your body, extends your arm. By extending your arm, they're extending your spine. By extending your spine, they are tilting your pelvic forward. And okay, but this time, you know, with or without visualizing iriminage and shikonage, but same thing. Extend your spine, tilt your pelvic area up, spine tilting, spine tilting, spine tilt, spine tilt, spine tilt, spine tilt, spine tilt. So again, the curving of the body, which means, you know, your lower body curving into it. When you know, if you are injured, you have to be very careful. or if you're just warming up, it's a good way to start. And at some point, you start to train the curvature of that for the extension of your spine. So now that we went standing up, let's practice a form of ukemi that, once again, has some advantages and some disadvantages, but let's focus on the advantages this morning, which is when you put your feet together, bend your knees, tilt your pelvic area forward, then bind your sideways. Let's start just with that exercise first. When you complete your ukemi completely on the other side. So when people see these exercises, once again, I've said it many times, sometimes when people haven't done it, or if they do it wrongly, people do not use their knees, do not use their pelvic area. They just simply curve their back. And that's really bad. That's really bad for the lower back. So it looks like your back is curved, but your back is not really curved. What is looking curved is the fact that you are lowering your hips and extending your pelvic area. That sensation should be very different sensation from not using your knees, not using your pelvic area, just simply go backwards like that with your head, and then potentially injuring your lower back. So please don't do that. Bend your knees, tilt your pelvic area forward. That gives the appearance of me curving my back. I'm not curving my back. From that position, apply. Once again, bend your knees, tilt it forward. Time. Bend your knees, tilt it forward. Time. Bend your knees, forward. One more. Bending forward. More. Bending forward. More. So the first benefit of practicing that kind of ukemi is the actual constant tilting and exposing of the pelvic floor. It's maybe an exaggeration in terms of ukemi, but if you constantly expose or tilt your pelvic area forward as a constant habit in ukemi, then when you come and connect with your partner, you are most likely to kind of present your hip as well. And then, in that sense, have the feeling of your hip being forward towards your partner. So, as a habit, it's not a bad habit. As an ukemi, it has its problems because you are overly giving yourself, but as a habit of hip tilt, of pelvic area tilting, is not a bad habit. Number one. Number two, the idea of having your legs open in this way and being careful that your legs don't cave inwards, or that your knees are always pointing out. That's always going to be also a good habit. That's a good habit for jigotai. That's a good habit whenever you have to load anything. That's always going to be a good habit. So if this exercise reminds us that our knees should not cave in, but our knees should be open out, and that our hip and our pelvic area must be tilting forward, those two are two good habits, okay? So bending your knees, exposing them, making sure that they are going out, make sure they are not caving in, exposing your pelvic area, bending your knees, and hard tilting your pelvic area, bending, tilting, bending, tilting, okay. Bend, tilt, me. One more, bend your knees, tilt in your pelvic area. All right, so the third good habit of this format of ukemi, especially if you not necessarily complete the ukemi, but you hold your legs at the end. So you bend, you tilt, and then you do the holding with your core muscles, legs parallel, and coming back. So if you do that, what's going to happen is that your core muscles are going to be engaged because you have to keep your legs up. Now, the important thing is that is a reminder of an entire process, not something that happens at the end of the process, right? The moment when you need your core muscles engaged is in order to protect your lower back, protect your spine. So that must happen at the beginning of the process, right? So when you are here, bend your knees, tilt your pelvic area, engage your core muscles here. And then you receive, and then your core muscles remain engaged and coming up. It is very different from not doing that at the beginning and somehow engaging the core muscles at the end. Okay, so the core muscles must engage at the beginning. It's just that having the legs up is a very clear visual reminder of the importance of core muscle engagement. So that's a good thing if that reminds you of doing that all the time. Okay, it's not a good thing if you only do that at the end, you know, because that's not when you needed your core muscles engaged. You know, when you needed your core muscles engaged is when you were receiving, because you wanted to protect your lower back and you wanted to protect your spine. That's when you needed your core muscles engaged, not when you're on the floor. Okay, so let's go. Bend your knees, make sure they don't collapse inwards. They're out. Tilt your pelvic area, you know, up. Okay, engage your core muscles and remain in your core muscles engaged. Again. Okay, bend your knees, make sure they don't collapse. Tilt your pelvic area, you know, engage your muscles and continue to engage. Bend knees, tilt pelvic area. Now that's why that action of raising the legs or the action of continuing the ukemi are not really that different in itself. It's not that one is better than the other one, because technically your core muscles should be engaged regardless if you stop the legs up or if you continue. So if you bend your knees, tilt your pelvic area, engage here, the core muscles must still remain engaged. Here, they must still remain engaged. So if anything, if you continue your ukemi, you have to remain engaging core muscles for longer in order to be able to do the exercise properly. Anyways, so I added the thing of knees not collapsing, the importance of the core muscles being engaged, but the original study for this today is the idea of tilting the pelvic area forward. Down, tilting the pelvic area forward. So that's a habit. You know, if a person does that all the time, then maybe when they are practicing not the ukemi form, but any other form, they have a natural tendency to tilt the pelvic area forward. All right, let's finish up with Kunat Kogi. All right, doing pretty much all of those things in the way Manoru Sensei often reminds us about it. So lift forward, first of all, adjust your hip so it's square. Second, tilt your pelvic area forward. Make sure that your pelvic area is not down, because now everything is going to be looking like this, which is going to be too much of my lower back. Okay, pelvic area. Okay, as you said. Now, hips in, pelvic area tilted, hands in front, weight distribution now. Ish. Yeah, oh, 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 Change to the other side. Right foot forward, same thing. Make sure that your hips are square, facing forward. Pay attention to the tilting of your pelvic area. Weight goes forward into the front knee, and now the rest is just distribution from one side to the other. Isaac. Remember, head being pulled by a string, hard out and leaving the movement, pelvic area, you know, in a neutral place where your spine sits up comfortably. Pay attention to your pelvic area, pay attention to moving your heart, pay attention to the extension of your head, especially when sitting in seiza, especially when doing a bow, okay? Great! Hey! Domo arigato gozaimasu. Thank you very much.